Admiral sat alone in his damaged ship as it limped through space toward hegemony territory. The journey that should have taken a few hours was now going to take several days because his engines were barely working. Every few hours, he tried to understand what had happened to his fleet. 46 ships destroyed, thousands of crew members dead. The most powerful fleet the hegemony had ever assembled, wiped out in minutes by 12 ships that had pretended to be space junk. 3 days into his journey home, Athena 7's voice came over his communication system again. "Admiral, please report to your shuttle bay." Was too tired and defeated to argue. He made his way through the damaged corridors of his ship to the shuttle bay, wondering what new horror awaited him there. What he found was not horror, but wonder. A human shuttle sat in his bay. It was beautiful in a way that ships never were. Its hull seemed to be made of liquid light, and it hummed with power that his sensors could not measure. "Please enter the shuttle, Admiral. There are things you need to understand before you return to your people." Against his better judgment, Admiral entered the human shuttle. The inside was larger than the outside, just like the human warships. The walls showed images of stars and planets he had never seen before. The air smelled like growing plants and clean water. The shuttle moved without him feeling any acceleration. Within minutes, he was back inside the Prometheus, standing in a vast chamber that definitely had not existed when his boarding teams explored the ship. Athena 7 was waiting for him, not as a hologram this time, but as a physical projection that looked completely real. She stood in the center of a room that showed the history of human civilization on its walls. "Welcome aboard the Prometheus, Admiral. I apologize for the dramatic nature of our first meeting, but you and your people left us few options." Admiral looked around the chamber in amazement. The walls showed images of humans building cities, exploring their own planet, and eventually reaching into space. But these were not the primitive scenes he had expected. "Your people," he said slowly, "they are not extinct." "No, Admiral, we are not extinct. We evolved beyond the need for permanent worlds many centuries ago. We became a spacefaring civilization that values exploration and knowledge above conquest." The images on the walls changed to show human ships traveling between stars, making contact with various alien species, and helping them solve problems. Some of the species in the images were ones the hegemony had conquered years ago. "You have been watching us," Admiral said. "Yes, we have been observing the hegemony for 43 years. We watched you destroy the Oran civilization. We watched you enslave the Ani people. We watched you turn them into a mining colony after killing half their population." Each name hit Admiral like a physical blow. These were hegemony victories, conquered species that had been completely defeated. How could the humans know about them? "We also watched you prepare to do the same thing to 17 other species," Athena 7 continued. "Species that have done nothing to harm you. Species whose only crime is existing in territory you want to claim." "That is the natural order," Admiral said weakly. "The strong rule the weak." Athena 7's expression became sad. "Admiral, that is not natural order. That is the choice of a species that has confused power with purpose." The walls showed new images. Human ships arriving at worlds just before hegemony fleets attacked. Civilian populations being evacuated to safety. Entire species being relocated to hidden colonies where they could rebuild their civilizations in peace. "Impossible," Admiral whispered. "We have detailed records. Those species were all destroyed." "No, Admiral. They were rescued. We allowed you to believe you had destroyed them because it was easier than revealing our existence too early. Some of them are now thriving on worlds you will never find." Admiral sank into a chair that appeared behind him, as if the ship itself was taking care of him. Everything he thought he knew about the hegemony's great victories was wrong. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because your species stands at a crossroads, Admiral. You can continue on your current path, in which case you will eventually force us to take more direct action, or you can choose to change. Change how? Athena 7 gestured, and the walls showed images of a different future. Ships working together with other species, trade routes instead of conquest fleets, cities built together by multiple alien races. Your people are not evil, Admiral. You are simply young and afraid. Most species go through a phase where they believe conquest is the only way to ensure survival, but it is not. Cooperation is stronger than conquest. Knowledge is more valuable than territory. The Grand Admiral will never believe this, Admiral said. He will think you are trying to trick us into weakness. Perhaps, but you have seen our ships in action. You know we could have destroyed your entire civilization if we wished. Instead, we chose to save your life and send you home with a message. Athena 7 walked to a wall that showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems glowed with different colors. The green systems are under human protection, Admiral. Any hegemony fleet that enters them will be turned away. The blue systems are inhabited by species that have chosen to work together instead of fighting. The red systems are places where we are currently evacuating populations threatened by aggressive species like yours. Admiral stared at the map. There were hundreds of protected systems, far more than the hegemony had ever suspected existed. How many ships do you have? He asked. Enough, Admiral. That is all you need to know. The human AI turned back to him with an expression that was both kind and terrifying. Your species has great potential. Your technology is impressive, even if it cannot match ours. Your people are capable of art, music, literature, and science. You could become a valuable part of the galactic community. And if we refuse, then you will discover that humanity is far more patient than you can imagine. We have waited centuries for species to evolve beyond their aggressive phases. We can wait centuries more, but we will not allow you to destroy others while you decide what kind of species you want to be. Admiral was transported back to his shuttle and then to his own ship without remembering the journey. As his damaged vessel continued its slow trip home, he tried to prepare a report that would convince the Grand Admiral to listen. But he knew it would not be enough. The hegemony would see this as a challenge to be overcome, not a warning to be heeded. They would build bigger fleets and more powerful weapons. They would search for the human and plot their revenge. And when they did, Admiral realized, they would discover just how much they had underestimated their opponents. 2 weeks later, his ship reached hegemony space. Admiral delivered his report to Grand Admiral, who listened with growing anger and disbelief. You expect me to believe that a species of primitives destroyed our most powerful fleet? The Grand Admiral roared. Sir, I saw it myself. Their technology is beyond anything we have ever encountered. Then we will build better technology. We will create weapons specifically designed to fight these humans, and we will teach them the price of interfering with the hegemony. Admiral said nothing more. He had delivered his message and his warning. If the hegemony chose to ignore it, that was no longer his responsibility. Far away in the dead star system, the human ships had returned to their dormant state. They floated silently in space, looking once again like ancient derelicts. But deep within each ship, artificial intelligences maintained their watch over the galaxy. Athena 7 recorded her final log entry of the encounter. Contact with hegemony completed. Warning delivered. Species assessment. Aggressive but educable. Recommendation. Continued observation with intervention protocols on standby. Additional fleets have been dispatched to protect species on projected hegemony expansion routes. She paused in her recording and added, "Personal note, the show promised despite their current behavior. Perhaps in another century or two, they will be ready to join the greater galactic community. Until then, humanity will continue to watch and protect those who cannot protect themselves." In the vast darkness of space, the human fleet returned to sleep, waiting for the next time they would be needed. But they would not wait long. The galaxy was a large and dangerous place, filled with young species that thought strength meant destruction and power meant conquest. Fortunately for the peaceful civilizations scattered among the stars, humanity had learned long ago that true strength lay in protection, and real power came from the wisdom to use it responsibly. The watch would continue. The silence in space felt heavy after the Genesis cannon stopped firing. Captain watched her screens as the transformed planet spun slowly in front of them. Where once there had been a world covered in military bases and weapon factories, now there was something else entirely. The planet's surface looked like black glass mixed with silver metal. Strange patterns covered every continent, geometric shapes that seemed to pulse with their own light. Most important of all, every piece of technology on the planet had stopped working. Their communication towers, their power plants, their defense systems, all of them had been changed into something else. "Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the enemy fleet," her communication officer said. "They're all asking what happened to their planet." Looked at the tactical display. The ships had pulled back from the retribution, but they hadn't fled. They were still trying to understand what they had just seen. "Put Admiral on screen," ordered. The alien commander appeared again, but he looked very different now. His usually perfect posture was gone. His four arms moved nervously, and his gray skin had turned a pale white color. Behind him, could see other alien officers rushing around his bridge in panic. "Human captain," said, his mechanical voice less steady than before. "Our sensors cannot identify what your weapon has done. Still exists, but it is no longer the same planet. Explain this." Stood up from her command chair and walked closer to the screen. "Admiral, for 3 years your people have been hunting my people across the galaxy. You've told everyone that humans are a disease that must be removed. You've glassed our colonies and killed our children. And you've done all of this because you believed we were weak." She paused and looked directly into his large black eyes. "You were wrong." "But the planet," insisted. "Our cities, our people, where are they?" His tactical officer spoke quietly. "Captain, long-range scans show no life signs on surface, but the planet isn't dead. It's different. The atmosphere has changed. Gravity is unstable in several areas, and there's some kind of energy field blocking all communication signals." Nodded. This was what the Genesis cannon was designed to do. It didn't just destroy things, it transformed them into something that couldn't be used by the enemy, was now completely useless as a military base. Any ship that tried to land there would face unstable gravity and communication blackouts. Admiral said, "Your planet is still there, but it will never be the same. Your soldiers, your weapons, your bases, they've all been changed into something that won't work anymore. This planet is now a monument to what happens when you underestimate humanity." The alien admiral stared at her for a long moment. "You have committed a war crime. You have destroyed an entire world." Felt anger rise in her chest. "A war crime? How many of our worlds have you glassed? How many human children have you killed? Don't talk to me about war crimes when your empire's goal is to exterminate every human in the galaxy." She walked back to her command chair. "Here's what's going to happen, Admiral. You're going to take your ships and return to your empire. You're going to tell them exactly what you saw here today, and you're going to deliver a message from humanity." "What message?" asked. "Tell them that we have been fighting a defensive war for 3 years. Tell them that we have been holding back, hopping for peace. Tell them that what you saw today was just one ship, with one weapon, used at its lowest power setting." Smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Tell them that if they want to continue this war, they will discover what humanity is really capable of when we stop holding back." Cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "Navigator, plot a course out of this system. We have more work to do." As the Retribution prepared to jump away, watched the fleet on her screens. Some ships were moving toward, trying to scan the transformed planet. Others were already jumping away, carrying news of what had happened to the rest of the Empire. The communication officer looked up from his station. "Captain, we're intercepting military transmissions across multiple systems. Word about is spreading fast." "What are they saying?" "Different things, ma'am. Some fleet commanders are calling for an immediate retreat from human space. Others are demanding that the Empire gather every ship they have for a massive attack on Earth. And," he paused, "some of their allied species are asking to withdraw from the Empire completely." Nodded. This was what she had expected. When bullies discovered that their victim could fight back, they usually reacted in one of two ways: they either backed down or they got even more violent. "Captain," her tactical officer called out, "long-range sensors are detecting a large fleet heading toward human space. At least 500 ships, maybe more." Felt her stomach tighten. 500 ships. Even with the Genesis cannon, the Retribution couldn't fight that many enemies at once, but maybe she didn't need to fight them all. "Where are they heading?" "Unknown, ma'am. They're maintaining communication silence and using jump patterns that make it hard to track their destination." Thought about her sister Maria on New Geneva. She thought about the 3 million people living there who trusted humanity's military to protect them. And she thought about Admiral's orders to show the Empire what humans were capable of. She had shown them one thing, but the war was far from over. "Set course for the system," ordered. "If the Empire wants to escalate this conflict, we'll give them exactly what they're asking for." Commander Torres looked up from his navigation station. "Captain, is a major supply depot. They have heavy defenses there." "Good," said. "The stronger their defenses, the better the demonstration will be. It's time for the Empire to understand that they started a war with the wrong species." Walked to her private cabin to study intelligence reports about the system. The station, their supplied weapons and equipment to fleets across 3 sectors. Destroying it would seriously hurt their war effort. But as she read the reports, found something that made her pause. Wasn't just a military depot. It was also home to over 50,000 civilians, workers, families, children. Stared at the report for a long time. She had joined the military to protect people, not to kill innocent families. But the Empire had never shown mercy to human civilians. They had glassed entire colonies without caring about the children who lived there. Did that mean she should do the same? Closed the report and returned to her bridge. War was forcing her to make choices she had never wanted to make, but every choice she didn't make meant more human colonies would burn. "Jump drive ready, Captain," her navigator announced. Sat in her command chair and stared at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, fleets were planning to attack more human worlds. Somewhere out there, her sister and 3 million other people were counting on her to keep them safe. "Execute jump," she ordered. The Retribution disappeared into the darkness between stars, carrying its terrible weapon toward another world that would soon learn what it meant to be humanity's enemy. 3 weeks had passed since, and the galaxy felt different. Captain sat in her ready room, staring at intelligence reports from across space. Her ship, the Retribution, had become something that scared even her own allies, a ghost that appeared without warning, transformed worlds, and vanished before anyone could respond. The numbers told a grim story. 7 military installations had been transformed by the Genesis cannon. Each strike had been precise, targeting only military assets and leaving civilian populations unharmed. But knew that didn't make the results any less terrible. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Commander Torres entered carrying a data pad. His face looked tired and worried. "Captain, we've received new intelligence from Earth Command. The Empire is changing their tactics." Took the data pad and began reading. What she saw made her feel sick. They're using human prisoners as shields. Yes, ma'am. They've moved captured humans to every major military facility in their territory. The message is clear. If we transform any more of their worlds, innocent humans will die with their soldiers. Threw the data pad onto her desk in frustration. This was exactly what she had been afraid of. The Empire was learning to fight dirty, using human compassion against them. There's more, Captain, Tors continued. 3 of their allied species have formally withdrawn from the Empire. The Republic sent a message to Earth Command asking for a peace treaty. They say they never signed up to fight against weapons that can transform entire planets. That was good news, but could see from Tor's expression that he had more bad news to share. What else? The remaining Empire species are gathering their fleets. Intelligence estimates they now have over 1,000 ships preparing for a coordinated attack on human space. And Captain, Tors paused, they've developed planet-killer weapons of their own. Felt cold dread in her stomach. What do you mean? They call them extinction bombs. Each one can destroy all life on a planet's surface while leaving the planet itself intact. They've positioned them around 15 human colonies, including New Geneva. Stood up quickly, her chair falling backward. 15 colonies, how many people? 40 million humans, Captain. They're broadcasting a message across all channels. The Empire will detonate the bombs if the Retribution doesn't surrender within 7 days. Walked to her small window and looked out at the stars. Her sister Maria was on New Geneva, along with 3 million other people. All of them were now hostages in a war that had escalated by using the Genesis cannon. Captain, there's something else, Tors said quietly. Some of our own allies are questioning our methods. The Coalition sent a diplomatic note asking Earth Command to consider the surrender demands. They say transforming worlds makes us no better than the Empire. Turned around to face Tors. No better. We've been careful to avoid civilian casualties. Every world we've transformed was evacuated first. The Empire has glassed 15 human colonies without giving anyone a chance to escape. I know, Captain, but the transformed worlds, they're not just military losses. Each planet took millions of years to develop its ecosystem. We've destroyed evolution itself. Had thought about this every night for 3 weeks. Each transformed world had been home to unique plants, animals, and natural wonders that would never exist again. The Genesis cannon didn't just change military targets, it erased entire histories of life. Commander, do we have any choice? If we stop now, the Empire will proceed with their original plan to exterminate humanity. If we continue, we become the monsters we're fighting against. Tors was quiet for a moment. Captain, some of the crew have been talking. They want to know if there's another way to use the Genesis cannon, something that doesn't require transforming entire worlds. Looked at him curiously. What do you mean? Well, ma'am, the weapon can restructure matter at the planetary level. But what if we could use it to restore instead of destroy? What if we could take worlds that have been damaged and make them better? Had wondered about this herself. The Genesis cannon's technology was based on accelerated evolution and matter manipulation. In theory, it might be possible to use it for creation instead of destruction, but every test had focused on military applications. The problem is time, Commander. We don't have months to run experiments. The Empire's deadline is 7 days. A communication alert sounded through the ship. Communication officer's voice came over the intercom. Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral at Earth Command. And Tors hurried to the bridge. Admiral's image appeared on the main screen, but he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was Dr. Sarah, one of humanity's leading experts on the Genesis cannon technology. Captain, Admiral began, Doctor has been studying data from your recent operations. She believes she may have found a solution to our current situation. Doctor stepped forward. She was a small woman with gray hair and intense eyes. had worked with her during the Genesis canon's development but hadn't spoken to her in over a year. "Captain," Doctor said, "I've been analyzing the energy patterns from your planetary transformations. The Genesis canon isn't just destroying the original matter, it's restructuring it according to specific quantum patterns. If we could modify those patterns, we might be able to create something unprecedented." "What kind of something?" asked. "Life, Captain. Not just any life that's specifically designed to be hostile to technology while remaining harmless to humans. We could transform their military worlds into places that actively fight back against their own equipment." Stared at the scientist. "You're talking about creating living weapons." "In a sense, yes. But more than that, we're talking about creating ecosystems that make war itself impossible. Imagine worlds where metal dissolves, where electronics fail, where weapons simply won't function." Commander Tors looked confused. "But Doctor, how does that solve our current problem? The Empire still has their extinction bombs aimed at our colonies." Doctor smiled for the first time since the conversation began. "Because, Commander, the Genesis canon has one more capability that we've never tested. It can affect matter across quantum distances. If we target the right quantum signature, we could potentially transform the extinction bombs themselves, along with every piece of military technology in the galaxy." Felt her heart racing. "You're talking about ending the war in a single shot." "More than that, Captain. We're talking about transforming the nature of war itself." "But," Doctor's expression became serious, "the process would require us to fire the Genesis cannon at maximum power, and the target would have to be perfect. We would only get one chance." Admiral spoke up. "Captain, Earth Command is authorizing this operation, but the decision is yours. You're the one who will have to live with the consequences." Looked around her bridge at her crew. These people had followed her through 3 weeks of impossible missions. They had watched her transform worlds and change the course of the war. Now she was asking them to trust her with something even more dangerous. "What happens if it doesn't work?" asked. Doctor was quiet for a moment. "If it doesn't work, Captain, the Empire will detonate their bombs and 40 million humans will die, and the war will continue until one side or the other is completely extinct." Closed her eyes and thought about her sister Maria, who had always believed that humans and aliens could find a way to live together peacefully. Maybe this was that way, not through diplomacy or surrender, but through transforming the very nature of conflict itself. "Doctor, how long do you need to prepare the modified quantum patterns?" 6 days, Captain. We'll have to transmit the new programming to your Genesis cannon while you're in position." Opened her eyes and looked at her crew. Each face showed determination mixed with fear. They all knew that what they were about to attempt had never been tried before. "Then we'd better get started," said. "Set course for the galactic core. If we're going to transform the nature of war itself, we're going to need the perfect place to do it." The emergency alert that woke Captain at 300 hours changed everything. She rolled out of bed and stumbled to her communication console, still wearing her sleep clothes. The message waiting for her made her blood run cold. "Captain, please report to the bridge immediately," came Commander Tor's urgent voice. "We have a priority transmission from the Empire." Quickly put on her uniform and rushed to the bridge. The Retribution was still 3 days out from the galactic core, where they planned to attempt Doctor's unprecedented Genesis cannon modification. But the grim faces of her crew told her that their timeline had just changed dramatically. "What's the situation?" asked as she took her command chair. Tors handed her a data pad. "The Empire has moved faster than we expected. They've taken hostages from New Harmony Colony. They're demanding immediate surrender of the Retribution, or they'll execute all prisoners." His hands shook as she read the report. New Harmony was a research colony where scientists studied ways to make damaged planets habitable again. It was supposed to be a peaceful place, far from the war zones. And according to the prisoner list, her sister Maria was there. "How many hostages?" asked, though she dreaded the answer. 12,000 people, Captain. Scientists, their families, support staff. The Empire has moved them to a heavily fortified space station above New Harmony. They say they'll begin executing prisoners in 6 hours if we don't respond. Closed her eyes and tried to think clearly. This was exactly what the Empire wanted, to force her into an impossible choice. Surrender the retribution and humanity's best weapon, or watch thousands of innocent people die. "Captain," her communication officer called out, "incoming transmission from the command station. They're specifically asking to speak with you." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made Phil sick. A commander she didn't recognize stood in what looked like a prison facility. Behind him could see dozens of human prisoners in small cells, and in the front cell, looking directly at the camera, was her sister Maria. "Captain," the alien commander said in perfect English, "I am commander of the Imperial Guard. As you can see, we have something that belongs to you." Stared at her sister's face on the screen. Maria looked scared but unharmed. She was wearing the same white research outfit remembered from their last video call 3 months ago. "What do you want?" asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Simple, surrender your ship and your weapon to the Empire. In exchange, these prisoners will be returned safely to human space. You have 6 hours to decide." Stood up from her chair. "And if I refuse?" Commander moved to Maria's cell and opened it. He grabbed sister by the arm and pulled her out in front of the camera. "Then we will demonstrate what happens to humans who resist the Empire's will, starting with the sister of humanity's greatest war criminal." Maria looked directly into the camera. Despite her fear, her voice was calm when she spoke. "Don't listen to them. These are the same aliens who have been studying our transformed worlds. They want the Genesis cannon so they can use it against other species." Struck Maria across the face, knocking her to the ground. "Silence, human. Your sister will decide if you live or die." Felt rage building in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Commander, if you harm those prisoners, I will transform every world in space into a wasteland that will never support life again." The alien commander laughed. "With what weapon, Captain? Our intelligence reports say your Genesis cannon requires several days to recharge between planetary transformations, and we know you used it 2 days ago on the supply depot. By our calculations, your weapon won't be ready to fire again for at least 5 days." Realized with horror that the Empire had been studying their attack patterns. They had figured out the Genesis cannon's limitations and planned this trap perfectly. "You have 6 hours, Captain. After that, your sister dies first." The transmission ended. Stared at the blank screen, her mind racing through possible options. None of them were good. "Captain," Doctor's voice came through the communication system from Earth Command. "I've been monitoring the situation. There might be another option." Quickly opened a secure channel to Earth. Doctor's face appeared on a smaller screen. "Doctor, the Genesis cannon won't be ready to fire for days. Even if it was, using it against the prison station would kill all the hostages." "That's true for the weapon's current configuration," Doctor said. "But Captain, I've made a breakthrough in the quantum pattern research. The Genesis cannon doesn't have to be used for destruction or transformation. It can be used for restoration and acceleration." "Didn't understand. What do you mean?" "Think about what the weapon actually does, Captain. It restructures matter at the quantum level and accelerates natural processes. We've been using it to transform planets into wastelands. But what if we could use it to make something grow instead?" Commander Torres looked confused. "Grow what, Doctor?" Doctor's image flickered as she pulled up technical diagrams. "Life, Commander. Specifically, life that's designed to be symbiotic with human biology but hostile to technology. We could target the prison station itself, not to destroy it, but to transform it into something living. Began to understand what the scientist was suggesting. You want to turn their space station into a living organism that protects our people while disabling their systems. Exactly. But there's more, Captain. If we succeed, we could use the same process on all the transformed worlds we've created. Instead of leaving them as wastelands, we could turn them into gardens, places where life grows better and faster than ever before. The tactical officer looked up from his console. Captain, even if this works, we still have the same problem. The Genesis cannon isn't recharged yet. Doctor smiled. That's the breakthrough, Lieutenant. I've found a way to bypass the recharge cycle. The weapon can fire immediately, but only once. After that, it will be permanently drained. Realized what this meant. You're talking about using our most powerful weapon for the last time. If this doesn't work, we'll have no way to defend ourselves. Yes, Captain, it's a gamble, but if it does work, we won't need the Genesis cannon anymore. We'll have found a way to end wars instead of fighting them. Looked around her bridge at her crew. These people had followed her through weeks of impossible missions. They had watched her transform worlds and change the course of the galaxy. Now she was asking them to risk everything on an untested theory. How long do you need to modify the quantum patterns? Asked. The modifications are already complete. I've been working on them since our last conversation. I can transmit the new programming to your ship immediately. Thought about her sister Maria, who had always believed that science could solve problems that weapons couldn't. Maria had spent her career trying to restore damaged ecosystems and create new forms of life that could survive in harsh environments. Maybe this was what Maria had been working toward all along, not just healing damaged planets, but transforming the nature of conflict itself. Doctor, transmit the new programming, ordered. Commander Torres set course for New Harmony, maximum speed. As her crew prepared for their final mission, opened a private channel to the prison station where her sister was being held. Commander, she said when the alien answered. This is Captain. I'm coming to New Harmony to give you my answer in person. The alien commander appeared on screen again, looking pleased. A wise choice, Captain. We will be waiting. Smiled, but it wasn't a surrender. Yes, Commander, you will be waiting, but I don't think you're going to like the answer I bring you. The space around New Harmony buzzed with warships when the retribution arrived. Captain counted over 300 enemy vessels surrounding the prison station where her sister and 12,000 other humans were being held. It was the largest alien fleet she had ever seen. Captain, they're hailing us, her communication officer announced. On screen. Commander appeared, his forearms spread wide in what had learned was a gesture of victory. Captain, you have arrived just in time. In 1 hour we begin executing prisoners. I trust you have come to surrender your ship. Stood in front of the main screen, her hands clasped behind her back. Commander, before I give you my answer, I want to show you something. Are you familiar with the worlds that my ship has transformed? The alien commander's expression became suspicious. Of course. You have destroyed 7 of our military installations. Your crimes will be remembered forever. Destroyed, smiled. Commander, I think you should look at those worlds more carefully. Your intelligence reports are incomplete. Nodded to her tactical officer, who brought up images of on the screen. But these weren't the images from 3 weeks ago when the planet had first been transformed. These were new scans, taken just days earlier. Surface still looked like black glass and silver metal, but now something else was growing there. Green patches covered large areas of the transformed continents, enhanced the image to show forests of crystalline trees that grew in perfect geometric patterns. What is this? Demanded. Life, Commander. The Genesis cannon didn't destroy your worlds, it planted seeds. Each transformed planet is now growing new forms of life that have never existed before. Life that grows faster and stronger than anything in the galaxy. switched to images of the other transformed worlds. Each one showed the same thing: new ecosystems growing from the transformed matter. But these weren't normal plants and animals. They were something entirely new. "These organisms are fascinating," continued. "They seem to be hostile to technology. Ships that try to land on these worlds find their electronics failing and their weapons dissolving. But human equipment works perfectly fine there." Commander was staring at the images with growing alarm. "This is impossible. You cannot create life from nothing." "You're right, Commander. We didn't create life from nothing. We accelerated evolution itself. The Genesis canon can restructure matter and speed up natural processes by millions of years. What you're seeing is what these worlds might have become after eons of evolution, if they had evolved specifically to resist your technology while embracing ours." Paused and looked directly at the alien commander. "But that was just the beginning. Today, I'm going to show you what the Genesis canon can really do." She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "All stations, prepare to fire the Genesis cannon. Target the prison station, but use Doctor's new quantum patterns." Her weapons officer looked nervous. "Captain, the station has 12,000 human prisoners aboard." "I know," said calmly. "Trust me." Opened a communication channel to all ships in the system and human alike. "This is Captain of the Retribution. For weeks, you have seen what humanity can do when we are forced to fight. Today, you will see what we prefer to do instead." She nodded to her weapons officer. "Fire." The Genesis cannon fired with the same invisible energy as before, but this time something different happened. Instead of striking the prison station's hull and transforming it into crystal, the energy seemed to merge with the station itself. For a moment, nothing visible changed. Then the station began to grow. Metal plates shifted and expanded. Corridors widened into vast chambers. The station's harsh artificial lighting was replaced by a warm, natural glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Through the observation windows, could see trees beginning to grow inside the station's transformed structure. "My God," Commander Torres whispered, "it's becoming alive." Watched her screens as the prison station transformed into something that looked like a living ship crossed with a vast garden. The prison cells opened automatically, releasing all human prisoners into large, comfortable areas filled with breathable atmosphere and growing plants. But the most amazing thing was what happened to the guards and crew aboard the station. Instead of being harmed by the transformation, they were gently moved to safe areas where the living station provided them with everything they needed: food, water, air, and comfortable places to rest. "Captain," her communication officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from inside the station. The human prisoners are unharmed. They're reporting that their prison cells have become garden rooms, and the guards, they can't get their weapons to work anymore." Opened a channel to the station. Her sister Maria's face appeared on the screen, and she was smiling. Maria said excitedly, "What you've done here is incredible. The station isn't just alive, it's intelligent. It's taking care of everyone aboard, human and alien alike. It's providing food and shelter, but it won't let the guards use any violent technology." Felt relief wash over her. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. I've been studying the transformed matter around us. This isn't just advanced technology, it's a new form of life that's specifically designed to make violence impossible while nurturing peaceful cooperation." Commander's voice cut across the channel. "What have you done to our station?" Could see the alien commander on a secondary screen. He was standing in what had once been his bridge, but was now a circular room filled with plants and soft lighting. His weapons and communication equipment had dissolved, but the living station was providing him with everything he needed to stay alive and healthy. "I've given you a gift," Commander said. "The same gift I've been giving to every world we've touched. I've shown you what the galaxy could become if we stopped fighting and started growing together. Opened a channel to all ships in the system. This is Captain speaking to all vessels and human. What you are witnessing is not a weapon of war. It is a tool of transformation. Every world that the Retribution has touched has been planted with seeds of new life that makes war impossible while making peaceful cooperation natural. She paused and looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of alien warships surrounding her single vessel. For 3 years, the Empire has tried to exterminate humanity because you believed we were a threat to galactic peace. Today, I'm offering you a different choice. Instead of destroying each other, we can transform the galaxy itself into something better than either of our species could create alone. Nodded to her weapons officer one final time. Fire the Genesis cannon at the fleet. Use the same quantum patterns. The invisible energy spread from the Retribution to every ship in the system. Watched her screens as 300 warships began to transform. Their metal hulls became living tissue. Their weapons dissolved into harmless biological matter. Their engines became organic propulsion systems that moved the ships gently through space. But most importantly, the ship's life support systems expanded and improved. The alien crews found themselves in vessels that provided perfect atmosphere, natural food sources, and peaceful environments that made aggression psychologically difficult. Captain, her communication officer said in amazement, we're receiving surrender transmissions from the entire fleet, but they're not surrendering to us, they're asking to join us. Smiled as she watched the transformed ships moving in gentle formations around New Harmony. The planet below was also changing as the Genesis cannon's energy reached its surface. Forests were growing in fast motion. Rivers were clearing and running cleaner. The atmosphere itself was becoming more pure. "This is Admiral," came a familiar voice over the communication system. Was surprised to hear from the Admiral who had witnessed the first transformation at. "Admiral," responded, "I thought you were leading fleets in another sector." "I was, Captain, but when reports reached us of what you had done here, I ordered my entire force to come and see for ourselves. We are witnessing the transformation of warfare itself." On her screen, could see Admiral standing on the bridge of his own transformed ship. Behind him, and human crew members were working side by side, tending to plants that were growing from the living walls. "Captain," continued, "I have sent messages to every fleet in space. The war is over, but more than that, we would like to request permission to help you transform other worlds, not as enemies or conquerors, but as gardeners working together to heal the galaxy." Felt tears in her eyes as she looked around her bridge at her crew. They had started this mission believing they were humanity's last weapon of war. Instead, they had become the galaxy's first tool of transformation. Admiral said, "Permission granted, but first I need to speak with my sister." Opened a private channel to the transformed station, where Maria was still studying the new forms of life around her. "Maria, I owe you an apology. When this war started, I thought the only way to protect humanity was to become better at destroying our enemies. But you were right all along. The real answer was to become better at creating life." Maria smiled at her sister through the communication link. "What you've done isn't destruction or creation, it's evolution. You've helped both our species evolve past the need for war." Looked out at the transformed ships moving peacefully around New Harmony. Each vessel was now a living ecosystem where former enemies worked together to tend gardens and explore new forms of life. "Computer," said, "record a message for transmission to Earth Command and to all worlds in both human and space." The computer acknowledged and began to speak. "This is Captain of the Retribution. The war between humanity and the Empire is officially over, but more than that, we are announcing the formation of the Galactic Gardening Accord. Any species that wishes to join us in transforming damaged worlds into thriving ecosystems is welcome to participate. paused and smiled. Humanity is no longer the galaxy's weapon. We are now its gardener, and we have a lot of work to do.